Once upon a time, there lived a young lady named Ade. Ade was a very beautiful girl. Her skin was as smooth as silk. Everyone in the village knew Ade because of her beauty. People would often say, "Look at Ade. She is as beautiful as a queen." Ade lived with her parents in a simple but cozy house. Her parents loved her very much and were proud of their daughter. They always told her, "Ade, you are our shining star. You are not only beautiful, but you also have a good heart." But despite her beauty, Ade had a big problem. All of her friends were getting married, but no man wanted to marry her. Ade's friends, one by one, found husbands. But deep inside, she felt sad and lonely. She wondered why no man wanted to marry her. "What is wrong with me?" Ade would often ask herself. "I am beautiful, kind, and no longer a child. Why doesn't any man want to marry me?" Ade's worry grew bigger and bigger. She couldn't stop thinking about it. Every day, she would ask her mother, "Mama, is something wrong with my face? Am I not beautiful?" Her mother would always reply, "My dear Ade, there is nothing wrong with you. You are beautiful just the way you are. Your time will come. One day, you will find your own husband. Stop worrying so much." But Ade couldn't stop worrying. She stopped helping her mother with the house chores. She no longer cooked, cleaned, or did anything useful around the house. Instead, she would spend her days walking up and down the streets of the village, hoping that someone would call out to her, hoping that someone would ask for her hand in marriage. But no man ever did. Ade started to feel worse each day. She was so focused on finding a husband that she forgot about everything else. She didn't care about helping her mother, didn't care about her friends, and didn't even care about herself. All she wanted was to be married, just like her friends. One day, Ade decided to ask her friends what their secret was. She went to see them and asked, "How did you find husbands so easily? What did you do that made the men want to marry you?" But her friends just laughed and said, "There is no secret, Ade. We were just lucky. Our husbands saw us and fell in love with us. That's all." Ade didn't believe them. She thought, there must be something they're not telling me. How could they all be married, and I am still alone? Ade felt even worse after talking to her friends. She thought there was something wrong with her, something that made the men avoid her. She became more and more unhappy, and this unhappiness showed on her face. She no longer smiled, no longer laughed, and no longer enjoyed life. All she could think about was finding a husband. One day, something unexpected happened. Ade's auntie, who lived in a faraway village, came to visit them. Her auntie was a kind and wise woman, who was well respected in her own village. She hadn't visited Ade's family in a long time, so everyone was excited to see her. When her auntie arrived, Ade greeted her with a big smile. She was so happy to see her auntie. After they had eaten and talked for a while, Ade decided to tell her auntie about her problem. "Auntie," Ade said, "I am so worried. I am beautiful, and I am no longer a child, but no man wants to marry me. All my friends are married, but I am still alone. What am I doing wrong?" Her auntie looked at Ade with kind eyes and smiled gently. "Ade, my dear, you are beautiful, and there is nothing wrong with you. But sometimes, things don't happen when we want them to. That doesn't mean they won't happen at all. Don't be so hard on yourself." But Ade shook her head. "No, auntie, you don't understand. I feel like there's something wrong with me. I see my friends with their husbands, and I feel so left out. Please, auntie, I need your help." Her auntie thought for a moment, then said, "Ade, if you really want my help, I will do what I can. But remember, true happiness doesn't come from being married or having people admire you. It comes from within, from loving yourself and being at peace with who you are." Ade nodded, but she was still focused on finding a husband. She didn't fully understand what her auntie was trying to tell her. All she wanted was to be married and to be like her friends. A few days later, her auntie decided to take Ade on a journey. "Come with me, Ade," she said. "There is someone I want you to meet." Ade was curious. "Who are we going to see, auntie?" "We are going to see a sorcerer," her auntie replied. "She is a wise woman who knows many things. Maybe she can help you with your problem." Ade's eyes lit up with hope. "A sorcerer? Do you think she can help me find a husband?" Her auntie smiled but didn't say anything. She just took Ade's hand, and together they set off on the journey to the sorcerer hut. When they finally reached the sorcerer hut, Ade felt a little nervous. The hut was small and old, with smoke coming out inside. Her auntie knocked on the door, and after a moment, the door creaked open. An old woman with a wrinkled face and sharp eyes stood in the doorway. "Welcome," the sorcerer said in a raspy voice. Come in, come in." Her auntie and Ade stepped inside the hut. The inside was dark, with only a small fire burning in the hearth. The walls were lined with shelves filled with jars, bottles, and strange objects that Ade had never seen before. The sorcerer motioned for them to sit down. "What brings you to my humble home?" she asked, looking at Ade with piercing eyes. Her auntie spoke first. "My niece, Ade, is troubled. She is a beautiful girl, but no man wants to marry her. She is worried and unhappy. We have come to seek your advice." The sorcerer looked at Ade closely, her eyes narrowing as if she could see right into Ade's heart. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "Beauty can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse if not used wisely. Ade, why do you want to be married so badly?" Ade was taken aback by the question. I want to be married because all my friends are married. I don't want to be alone. I want someone to love me." The sorcerer nodded slowly. "I see. But love and marriage should not be sought out of fear of being alone. They should come naturally, when the time is right. However, I understand your worry, and I will help you." The sorcerer got up and went to one of the shelves. She took down a small pouch filled with powder and handed it to Ade. "Rub this powder on your face every time you go out," the sorcerer instructed. "It will make you even more beautiful, and men will be drawn to you. But remember, you must never rub this powder on your face before going to bed at night. Do you understand?" Ade nodded eagerly, holding the pouch tightly in her hands. Thank you so much. I will do exactly as you say." The sorcerer looked at her with a serious expression. "Remember what I have told you, Ade. Beauty is not everything. Be careful how you use it." Ade promised to be careful and thanked the sorcerer again. She was so excited to try the powder that she could hardly wait. Her auntie and Ade left the sorcerer hut and returned home. From that day on, Ade followed the sorcerer's instructions. Every time she went out, she rubbed the powder on her face. And just as the sorcerer had said, the powder made her even more beautiful. As soon as she stepped out of the house, men would stop and stare at her. They couldn't take their eyes off her. Some would even follow her down the street, trying to talk to her, trying to win her favor. Even the husbands of her friends couldn't resist her beauty. They would look at her with admiration and longing, forgetting about their own wives. Ade finally had the attention she had always wanted. She felt powerful and happy. After a while, many men came to ask for her hand in marriage. Ade was thrilled. She had so many men to choose from. She no longer felt sad or lonely. She no longer worried about being unmarried. She was the center of attention, and everyone wanted to be with her. Ade finally chose one of the men who had asked to marry her. He was handsome, kind, and came from a good family. The wedding was grand and beautiful, just like Ade had always dreamed. Ade's parents were overjoyed. They were happy to see their daughter finally married and happy. Her auntie was there too, smiling proudly at her niece. Everything seemed perfect. Ade had everything she had ever wanted: a loving husband, admiration from everyone, and a life filled with beauty and happiness. But little did Ade know that her happiness would soon turn into a nightmare. Ade was so happy in her new life that she completely forgot about the sorcerer warning. She continued to use the powder every day, enjoying the attention and admiration it brought her. She felt powerful and beautiful, and nothing else seemed to matter. But one night, after a long day of receiving compliments and gifts from admirers, Ade forgot to wash off the powder before going to bed. She was so tired that she didn't even think about it. She just lay down next to her husband and fell asleep. The next morning, when Ade woke up, she felt strange. Her face felt heavy, and her skin felt tight. She got out of bed and looked at herself in the mirror. What she saw made her scream. Her beautiful face was gone. In its place was a twisted, hideous face that looked like a monster. Ade's scream woke her husband, who looked at her and screamed too. He jumped out of bed and ran out of the house in terror. Ade was left alone, staring at her reflection in disbelief. "What has happened to me?" she cried. "Why do I look like this?" She suddenly remembered the sorcerer warning. Never rub the powder on your face before going to bed at night. But it was too late. The damage was done, and now Ade was cursed. Desperate and frightened, Ade ran out of the house to find help. But as soon as she stepped outside, people saw her and ran away in fear. They didn't recognize her anymore. They only saw a monster. Ade ran to her parents' house, hoping they would help her. But when her parents saw her, they too ran away, terrified of the creature standing in front of them. "Ade," her mother cried. "What has happened to you?" "Mama, it's me, Ade," she sobbed. "Please, help me." But her parents were too frightened to come near her. Ade ran to her friends' houses, hoping they would help her. But one by one, her friends saw her and screamed in terror. They didn't recognize her either. They too shut their doors and windows, leaving Ade alone in the street. Ade's heart was broken. She didn't know where else to go. She remembered her auntie and thought, maybe auntie can help me. She took me to the sorcerer. Maybe she knows what to do. She ran to her auntie's house, but when auntie saw her, she too was filled with fear. "Who are you? What do you want?" Auntie cried. "Auntie, it's me, Ade. Don't you recognize me?" Auntie looked closer and gasped in shock. "Ade, what has happened to you? Why do you look like this?" She explained everything, how she had forgotten to wash off the powder and how she had woken up with a cursed face. "Please, Auntie, help me. What can I do?" Auntie shook her head sadly. "Oh, Ade, I warned you. I told you that true happiness doesn't come from beauty alone. Now you must face the consequences of your actions. The sorcerer warned you, and now you must go back to her. Only she can help you now." With no other choice, Ade set off for the forest to find the sorcerer. Her heart was heavy with fear and regret. She had let her vanity and desire for attention control her, and now she was paying the price. The journey to the sorcerer hut was long and difficult. Ade was no longer the beautiful girl who could walk confidently through the village. Now, she was a frightened, lonely creature, hiding from the world. As she walked through the forest, she thought about everything that had happened. She remembered how she had stopped helping her mother, how she had neglected her friends, and how she had become so obsessed with her appearance that she had forgotten what really mattered. "I was so foolish," Ade thought to herself. "I let my vanity blind me. I cared more about how I looked than about who I was. And now, I have lost everything. When Ade finally reached the sorcerer hut, she was exhausted and scared. She knocked on the door, hoping the sorcerer would help her. The door creaked open, and the sorcerer stood in the doorway, her eyes wide with shock when she saw Ade. "What have you done, Ade?" the sorcerer asked, her voice filled with sorrow. "I'm so sorry," Ade cried. "I forgot your warning. I used the powder at night, and now I'm cursed. Please, help me. I don't want to live like this." The sorcerer looked at Ade with a sad expression. "I warned you, Ade. I told you that beauty is not everything. You were given a gift, but you used it carelessly. Now, you must pay the price." Ade fell to her knees, sobbing. "Please, I'll do anything to fix this. I've learned my lesson. I know now that true beauty comes from within, not from how you look on the outside. Please, tell me how I can make things right." The sorcerer was silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "There is a way to lift the curse, but it will not be easy. You must go on a journey of redemption. You must find those you have wronged and ask for their forgiveness. You must help those in need without expecting anything in return. And most importantly, you must learn to love yourself for who you are, not just for your beauty." Ade listened carefully, her heart filled with determination. "I will do whatever it takes. I want to make things right." The sorcerer nodded. "Very well. I will give you a chance. But remember, this journey will be long and difficult. You must be patient and kind. Only then will the curse be lifted." With the sorcerer's words in her heart, Ade set off on her journey of redemption. She knew it would not be easy, but she was determined to make things right. Her journey took her to many different places. She traveled from village to village, looking for ways to help others and make up for her past mistakes. One day, as Ade was walking through a village, she saw a poor old woman sitting by the side of the road. The woman was shivering from the cold, her clothes torn and dirty. Ade's heart was filled with compassion. She approached the old woman and said, "Here, take my cloth. It will keep you warm." She took off her own cloth and wrapped it around the old woman's shoulders. The old woman looked up at Ade with grateful eyes. "Thank you, my dear," she said in a weak voice. "You have a kind heart." Hearing those words, Ade felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was the first time in a long time that someone had seen her for something other than her appearance. From that day on, Ade continued to help those in need. With each act of kindness, she felt her heart grow lighter, and the fear that once clouded her face began to fade. She also saw her old friends, the ones she had envied and neglected. She apologized to them for her jealousy and asked for their forgiveness. Some forgave her, while others needed more time, but Ade understood. She had learned to be patient and to give others the space they needed. As the weeks turned into months, Ade found that she no longer cared about how others saw her. She had found a new kind of beauty, one that came from within. She was no longer obsessed with marriage or with being admired. Instead, she was content with the simple joy of helping others and being at peace with herself. But the journey was not without challenges. There were times when Ade felt discouraged, when she doubted whether she would ever be free of the curse. There were days when people still ran away from her, afraid of her appearance. But each time, Ade reminded herself of the sorcerer's words and kept going. One day, as Ade was helping a young child who had fallen and scraped her knee, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "You have done well, Ade." Ade turned around and saw the sorcerer standing there, a gentle smile on her face. The sorcerer no longer seemed afraid of her. Instead, she looked at Ade with kindness and approval. "You have shown great courage and kindness on your journey," the sorcerer said. "You have learned the true meaning of beauty and love. Now, there is only one more test. Ade felt her heart skip a beat. What is it? The sorcerer reached into her bag and pulled out a small mirror. Look into this mirror, Ade. What do you see? Ade hesitated, afraid of what she might see. But she knew she had come too far to turn back now. She took the mirror from the sorcerer and slowly raised it to her face. When Ade looked into the mirror, she gasped in surprise. Her reflection showed not the monster she had feared, but her true self, a young woman with a kind face and gentle eyes. The curse had been lifted. Tears filled Ade's eyes as she realized that her outer appearance had changed to match the inner beauty she had discovered on her journey. The curse is lifted, the sorcerer said softly. You are free, Ade. But remember, the true beauty you have found within yourself is the most precious gift of all. Never forget it. Ade nodded, her heart filled with gratitude and joy. She thanked the sorcerer for her help and promised to continue living a life of kindness and compassion. With the curse lifted, Ade returned to her village. This time, she was not seeking attention or admiration. She was simply happy to be herself, to be surrounded by people she cared about and who cared about her in return. When Ade's parents saw her, they were overjoyed. They welcomed her back with open arms, proud of the woman she had become. Her friends, too, saw the change in her and admired her not just for her beauty, but for her kind heart and gentleness. Ade lived the rest of her life as a beloved member of her village. She married a kind and loving man, not because she sought out marriage, but because love found her naturally. And so, Ade lived a long and happy life, surrounded by love and respect. She had found what she had been searching for all along, not just a husband, but true happiness and contentment. The story of Ade teaches us an important lesson. In every situation we find ourselves, we should always have patience. Kindness, compassion, and love is what truly matters in life. We should not be obsessed with how we look on the outside or seek validation from others. Instead, we should focus on being good and kind people, and happiness will naturally follow. Ade's journey shows us that vanity and obsession with appearance can lead to unhappiness, but a life lived with love and kindness will bring true joy and fulfillment. Please do well to subscribe, like and share, it's free.